Hi, welcome to Parametric House. In this Grasshopper tutorial, we want to sort a series of curves. As you can see here, we can define how many of the ellipses we have, this freeform curve we have in this selection, the pentagon, circle, and this polyline. We're also going to talk about the coloring, so you can give different colors to them, so be sure to watch the video till the end. Okay, let's get started from scratch. To make this as fast as possible, I have defined a series of random curves here. Now that we have the series of curves, what I want to do is to go and show you how we can do that step by step in Grasshopper. This is a little bit advanced tutorial, so be sure to watch the video till the end. So what I want to do is to first sort them based on something. Because that we have this open polyline, we can't use the area command because we don't have the area of this, so this is not going to be useful. For this tutorial, I've chosen the length, so you can go to the curve and use this analyzes length component. So I'm just going to find the length here, as you can see here, and this is going to help me to define how many types of curves I have and the count of them. As you can see here, like we have this length and so on. So now the technique is, how can we convert this length into a series of modules we have here? The easiest way I've found is to use the point groups component. It's going to find the number of the instances we have and also put them into groups. So this is the easiest way we can do that, but to do that we have to convert these lines in this length into a point. So I'm going to go to the vector, and from the point menu I'm going to use the construct point component and give this to the z, for example. You can also give it to x or y, but the reason we are doing this is to actually have some sort of different points so we can work with them. Now that we have the points, we can go to the point and use this point groups and give it to here. The distance is the distance we want to group those points, so I'm going to just put that to like 0.01 because the points are really near or just like zero distance. This is going to help us to extract that. Okay, now that we have this, you can see that we have the point groups. It's going to say that you have 5 different curves, and they are like, the first one is like 4 times, 3 times, 6 times till the end. Okay, this is the point groups, and the most important thing is going to give you the index. So the indices is also here. If I connect a panel to this, you can see that this is going to be great because we can extract the index of each of these curves. Now that we have that, we just have to go to the sets and use this list item tool to pick up these curves and give that index to the index. This list item is going to pick the curves by this indexes. So now we have just made them into groups, and that's it. So what we want to do is to show them with the different colors. If I go to the sets and in the tree submenu, you can see the explode tree. So I'm going to just put this to explode tree, give it to here, and right click and say match outputs. This is going to help you. If I just simplify this also, it's going to make it like into different groups to delete the extra zeros we have here. Okay, and now you can see that if I just connect that to a curve, this is the first group, this is the second one, the third, and till the end. If you don't want to use the explode tree and just do that more professionally, what you can do here is to pick one of those curves here. Okay, so if we have like 5 groups, I'm going to again use the list item and pick the first one. So this is going to help us to pick the first index of each of these groups and have them as the modules. These are the modules, and we can have them here. If I flatten, you can see that we have 5 different modules or curves inside here. This is a good technique if you want to just sort them based on the type they have. Okay, now that we have the types, you can do that differently, but for now what I want to do is, that example, we have these types of curves. What I want to do here is to define a point and just put them on the top of each other. Okay, so for example, the curve is going to come here, triangle, and rectangle. Okay, and then we can just type, for example, we have 3 times of this, 5 times of this, and so on. This is also a good technique if you want to learn how to put them on top of each other. So what I want to do here is to use a technique called bounding box. So I'm going to go to the Palms menu and use this bounding box. The reason I'm using the bounding box is that because I want to define this length, so when I define the point, I'm going to use the different length I have to put these, orient these types of curves here, okay? Now that I have the box, we can go to the surface and deconstruct. And in the list item, I'm going to pick up the edge I want. So this edge is not what I need. I just add plus, so it goes from 0 to 1. And now we have this edge. And just simply connecting a number to this one is going to give you, let's just flatten this. And if you don't know about flatten or graft, you can just check up this video. I'm going to put it up here. It's about flatten, graft, and simplify. Okay, now that we have these lengths, we can make the point. I'm going to define a point from the Palms menu. Set the point here, for example. And now what I want to do is to make a series of points. The technique I'm using is, because these numbers are different, I'm going to move them by going to transform and move them in the Y direction. And I'm going to use this number. For example, if I have these numbers, we have 10, 2, and 8. If we want to make them move, first is going to be the 10, the next one is going to be 12, and the last one is going to be 20, right? So it's going to be step by step. We can use a component in Grasshopper to do that easily by going to the math and use this mass addition. Give it to here, and now you can see that we have in the second output partial results. You can see it's going to add up. So if I give that to the Y, that's exactly the distance we need. So now you can see that we have those lengths here. The problem is that we don't have the first point. If I turn that off, you can see it's just jumping from the second one. So what we have to do here is to add also a 0. So it's going to be 0y and then this partial results. Okay, now we have that. Now what we have to do is to orient these from this point to this point. It's really easy. What we want to do is to orient this geometry from this corner and in XY plane on this corner and XY plane, right? Transform, orient. Geometry we want to orient is here. The plane we want is to, we have to extract the vertices. So I'm going to extract the vertex of the corner here and use that. It says the initial plane and the target plane, right? The final plane. The final plane is obviously these points, and the initial plane is going to be these corners. But as you can see here we have 5 curves or a base geometry here, but the input here is in groups, right? If I zoom in, you can see it's in groups. So what we have to do is to flatten this. If you don't know about flatten or graft, I'm going to put it up here so you can watch it. I'm going to flatten this, and the final is going to be here. And you can see that they are stacking on top of each other and they're just touching. The last one is just a duplicate. We have to get rid of this one. And the reason here is that we have 5 geometry, 5 initial plane, but 6 final planes, right? And because we added a 0. So what we want to do is to use a tool called shortest list, or you can find it in sets here. And I'm going to say these 2 inputs has to be the shortest. Again, remember that flatten the behind. The reason I flattened this is that if I don't flatten, as you can see here, this is going to be a group of 1, right? And this one is going to be a group of 6. So it can't really relate which one is the shortest. But when you flatten it, it compares both of them. It says this input is like 5, this one is 6. So I'm going to only give out the 5 outputs, and that's going to correct the problem. Okay, now that we have the final results, we can also add a little bit of a gap here. This is also easy. What we want to do is to add a little bit of gap to this y. So I'm going to also use another y, and in the math add these two y's. If you only give it a number, this is not going to help us. It's only moving it up, right? So what we want to do is to make a series of numbers. Find it in sets series. The first one is like 0. The second one is the step size, is the gap we want. And the count, we can use the sets list length. Give it to the count of the curves we have. And say we need only 5. And now this is going to be the gap. So I can name that gap. Okay, now we can easily move the point we want to locate that. Put it down here. Turn everything off. Turn the points off. And the only thing left is to write the number of each of these curves we have. So now what we want to do is to move this point, maybe in the y direction, x direction, sorry. I'm going to move that in the x direction. Okay, maybe from -10 to 10 is fine, because minus is going to put your numbers back here or the front, doesn't really matter. We'll just turn this off. Okay, this is going to be the location of those points. Remember again that we have 6 numbers, we need 5, so we have to again use that shortest list in the next step. And then we have to count them. At the start of the tutorial, you can see that we have somehow the count of each of these in the number of groups. So what I want to do is to use a list length. If I connect a panel, you can see that we have the number of each of these, right? Let's just put that to an integer and bring it here. And now we can show them by going to the display and using this tag 2D or 3D, doesn't really matter. For example, tag 2D is simple. You just have to give the points. Again, remember, because we have 5 and 6, we have to use a short list. So I'm going to use a short. Remember to flatten it so it's just going to be compared to each other correctly. We have to have 5 here and 6 here. Okay. The first input is the text to display, and the location of the tag is going to be here. And I'm going to make it large. If you want to just turn off the points. If you want to make it even larger or control the size, you can use the tag 3D. The location is going to be this one. The text is going to be this one. You have a number slider for the size. The justification, it says that where is the number justified? I'm going to just right click and say middle center. And now we can just put that here. Okay, if we want to add an X here or maybe here, doesn't really matter, we can just make a panel. maybe it's a big X. And we can go to the sets and use this text concatenate and say that we want to first put the X and then this is the text, right? Because this is 1X and these are 5 numbers, what's going to happen is that it's going to just add it all to those numbers, and then we can just put that to the X. If you want to put the X second, you can say this is the first, this is the second, and you can see it here. That's really easy. And now let's just test this. I'm going to draw different curves and give it to this input so you can see the results. Okay, now you can see that I have added a new series of curves to here, and it's just counting them. Let's just move that a little bit forward here, or maybe put it here. You can see that we can have the counts and the types here. The last technique for those who have watched this video till the end is the coloring. So if you want to color it, you can just go to the display, use the custom preview. The custom preview is going to be used for the orientation. I'm going to give it here. And what I want to do is to make a series of colors. This one is like 3, maybe it's like 10 different types of curves. So I'm going to go to the Params menu, input, and use this gradient. The preset is going to be maybe this colorful, okay? Give it to the colors. The first input is 0, so it's going to say this is like 0. The L1 is 1, so it says this is 0, this is 1. You can change that, but we don't want to. Then it says which color do you want, okay? So it's between 0 and 1. It's really easy. What you want to do is to make a range of numbers. You can find it in sets, sequence range. And the default is between a 0 and 1. It says we want a series of numbers between a 0 and 1, and how many numbers we have, how many objects we have here. So I'm going to just use a list length again to count that. It says 3. Because when you give a 3, it's going to add it up to 4. The reason is that it's going to try to divide 0 to 1 into 3 sections. So it's going to be 0, 0.3, 0.6, and 1. So it's going to be 4 numbers. We just have to make this x minus 1. X minus 1. Give it to the t. And now you can see that we have different colors. Go to the rendered mode. If you can't see that in the render, I'm going to also give you a technique to do that. But for now, you can see that we have the color. If you don't see that in the rendered mode, the only plugin I've seen it's using preview is to go to the human plugin, display custom preview length, and use this one instead, the geometry and the shader, okay? And then you can give it a thickness also. This one is good if you want to maybe we want to change the colors. And here we go. We can also give this output to the C input, which is the color of the tags, right? So we can just add this here if we want to make the tags colorful. And we also want to give that to the curves. So we have the rectangles are red, the polyline is going to be green, and so on, okay? How can we do that? Let's just bring those curves that we have picked from here. I'm going to again use this custom preview length. Okay, if I give this shader to this one, you can see it's not correct, right? The reason here is that we have 3 groups here in the input, and the value here is not in groups, so we just have to graph this up, give the same thickness, and now you can see that we have all of them in different colors. So this is going to be helpful if you want to just show them that like that. So now you can just change anything. This is a great tool if you want to just count that, count the curves and put them anywhere you want. Just have to change that point and you will get the final results. I hope this tutorial was useful. Just was a really important component I wanted to talk about, point groups, and also some techniques like the mass addition, this one like the shortest list, adding some text on the concatenate tool component, and also some coloring and this custom preview line width, which is good for like visualization. Remember to like this video and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.